influencers labeled the Epstein files. Comes as the Epstein scandal has taken center stage in acting Attorney General Todd Blanche's confirmation hearings. Joining me now, Democratic Representative Yasmin Ansari of Arizona. She sits on the House Oversight Committee. Congresswoman, was it just the comms that the Trump administration got wrong?
It is absolutely ridiculous, first of all, that the Vice President of the United States has several hours of his time to spend going on a right-wing podcast. But besides that, no, this is the biggest cover-up in American history. The White House's cover-up of the Epstein files is so beyond shameful, and there are so many people that need to be investigated and ultimately prosecuted for it. Let's not forget that J.D. Vance held a meeting in the White House Situation Room. This is a room where, historically, presidents convene national security experts to talk about matters of war and combating terrorism. But this White House, led by the vice president, used the Situation Room to talk about how they're going to cover up the Epstein files. And J.D. Vance gave some great ideas about that, and that's sarcasm, himself. I think the entire thing is ridiculous. He is trying to come out of this in some sort of positive light, but we have to remember that he himself needs to be investigated and come before the Oversight Committee, because he's as much a part of this cover-up as anybody else in this administration.
This is all particularly in focus today because in the Senate, Epstein survivor Danny Bensky is giving emotional testimony opposing Todd Blanche's nomination as AG. She spoke about the harm from failures to redact survivors' personal information from the files. Take a listen.
Instead of treating this release as its own violation and holding the man who led it accountable, you have a decision on whether you place him in the highest law enforcement position in this country. These documents contain disturbing yet incomplete accounts of my abuse. They were available not only for the entire world to see, but my child, my students, my friends, my employers, my colleagues, and my family. It was humiliating. Worse, my FBI 302 exposed a Jane Doe who had fought for decades to conceal her identity.
Danny ended her testimony by asking members to, quote, think about the girls in these photos. We've learned this morning that Senator Tillis says he still has reservations about this nomination, that he will not vote to confirm unless he gets a commitment, and you have Blanche actually meeting with some of these survivors. Any indication, to your knowledge, that that commitment has been made?
I am so in awe of Danny and all of the survivors who have been forced into this situation. Their lives have been upended because of Todd Blanche. I don't trust Todd Blanche at all. He is Donald Trump's attorney. He technically is his former personal defense attorney, but yesterday, as we heard in the confirmation hearing, he still called himself Donald Trump's lawyer. And they will do everything that they can to cover this up. We know that Todd Blanche met with Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours. Danny laid this out very clearly in her testimony. He has not met with survivors. I would think that when Republican senators, at least one, has made clear that he does need to do so, he may go through the motions, but Todd Blanche cannot be trusted. He was the one who was managing this entire situation. He is the one who has refused to release the entirety of the Epstein files. He is the one who has doxed survivors and upended their entire lives by releasing their personal information, unveiling information about Jane Does, who now have to deal with the consequences of all of this when they didn't choose to. He's a monster, and Todd Blanche should go to jail and not, he belongs in jail. He should absolutely not be confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States of America.
This morning, Congressman Massey, Congressman Ro Khanna, they introduced what they're calling the Epstein Files Transparency Act 2, and they joined our colleagues on Morning Joe to explain why this is necessary. Take a listen.
We never anticipated that the chief law enforcement officer of the land wouldn't follow the law. And so Roe and I took some heat because we didn't put in our original bill the ability to sue the chief law enforcement officer of the land. And so that's what the Epstein Files Transparency Act 2.0 does. It gives the victim standing to sue the Attorney General to get their own records, their own testimony in these 302 forms. It also gives congressmen standing to enforce this law.
Congressman, do you believe this is necessary?
This is absolutely necessary. This administration will do anything that it can to continue this egregious cover-up, and so we need to have as many avenues as possible for victims and survivors to get the justice that they deserve. I hope to see attorneys general across this country leverage this and stand up. There are survivors everywhere of Jeffrey Epstein's massive crime network. I have had people in my district and from Arizona reach out to me who were trafficked and abused by Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and other rich and powerful people. So we need to find as many ways as possible to go after this administration for the cover-up and ultimately go after the perpetrators and enablers that are named in the files that this administration is choosing intentionally to withhold from the American public.
Congressman, you said something earlier, and I just want to make sure that I understood what you said. I believe you said that you believe Todd Blanche belongs in jail. Is that what you intended to say? And if so, why?
I do believe Todd Blanche belongs in jail because he has directed the most egregious cover-up in American history. This is a blatant violation of United States law. Donald Trump himself signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act after being forced to do so because a bipartisan group of members of Congress and senators passed this bill many, many, many months ago. And since then, Todd Blanche has blatantly violated the law. He has doxed survivors and ruined countless lives because of that. And that's just as it pertains to the Epstein files. He has also weaponized the Department of Justice to go after Donald Trump's perceived political opponents. He is also trying to give a massive payout to January 6th insurrectionists. This is a guy who is a criminal, and he needs to be investigated. And that is absolutely something that Democrats will look at when we take back the House majority this November.
Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari of Arizona. Congresswoman, thank you. Right now, White House Press Secretary